So Longevity Global is aimed at connecting entrepreneurs and investors in the longevity space together to create community and collaboration. And we know that being very socially connected and having a good community is really important for your health span and for your health and well-being. So if you can want to add a few years to your life, be socially connected, come to things like this. So we have chapters here. We have a chapter in New York City called Longevity NYC. We have brand new 2 chapters in UAE, which is Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and also in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we host monthly events. So we have hikes, we have beach parties, we have mushroom foraging. We have monthly events here and in New York City, and we're trying to expand to all of the cities. So if you know anyone that wants to start a chapter somewhere else, let me know. Our biggest event is the Longevity Summit at the Buck Institute. We had it for the 2nd year last year. It's December 5th and 6th. And it's a 2-day event with food and networking and great speakers that are leaders in the longevity field. If you want to join us, basic membership is free. This is a QR code. You can see pictures of our events and a calendar of all the longevity events around the world. And yeah, that's basically it. Thanks. Oh yeah. And Niko is my assistant director here at Longevity SF, and his other hat is to be a bioinformatician at the Buck Institute, and he studies aging brain, bioinformatics and welcome.
Okay, so after everything that Christin said, definitely join us. That will ensure that you'll live longer. Good community helps live longer. So at the Buck Institute, we have these 3 beautiful buildings above the clouds, and we're the first institution that is specifically dedicated to research in longevity. And the team that I'm part of is the Bioinformatics core team, or the AI team. And we have a number of people who are interacting with the different scientists in the Institute, trying to help solve longevity problems. That's the different areas of research. We do space biology, that's sending cells in space and trying to see how they age. It turns out that going to space has the same effects as aging on human cells in the human body. We do human organoids that we send in space. Cardiovascular aging, brain aging, COVID-19, it seems that that virus ages you quite well. And then we also play, we're also on the bandwagon of the aging clocks that everybody is traveling on. But I'm going to tell you tonight about the brain. So the first element that I wanted to show you here is the complexity of the neurons between an animal and a human. There's a huge difference between the two, and it happens mostly at the level of the connections between the different neurons. For the same volume, for the same space, the human will have much more complexity, much more synapses, much more complex synapses, and the neurons also will have much more arborescence than the animal neurons. The human brain is much bigger than the animal brains, proportionally to the human body. And when you look at the network at the mesoscale, that's the connection between brain areas, what happens is you have much less interconnections between the hemispheres, and you have more connections within hemispheres between the brain areas. But again, much more denser connectivity than in other animal species. And well, why am I telling you all that? The reason I tell you that is that actually connectivity is very important in the brain, more important than the cells that you have. And the reason for that is that aging, the normal aging, actually happens by loss of connections and not so much in loss of cells. So this figure here shows the work of some people who did some smart stereology, and try to count the cells that are being lost during normal aging versus the cells that are being lost in Alzheimer's disease. And while you lose a lot of cells in Alzheimer's disease, you lose lots of cells in Alzheimer's disease, you don't lose cells in longevity. But what will happen with your brain when it ages, it's going to shrink its volume. The volume of the brain is going to shrink. And this much smaller brain is what is going to lead to the other elements associated with longevity, like worse cognition and other issues that arise with old age. And so what we would like to do is we like to understand how the aging brain goes to become what it is. It's blinking, but at least it's there. So what happens is I just told you what matters in the brain is the connections, and it matters that things are connected in the brain, and those are the things that we start losing when we age. And what happens is if you look at the brain, you can do a structural MRI scan, and that's how the brain looks like. And you have the gray matter, and this white thing is the white matter. The brain scientists were not very original when they were finding the names. But another way to look at the white matter is to look at the way water diffuses around the fibers. And so the more organized the fibers are, the more the water will follow those fibers in a given direction, the direction that they go. The less organized the fibers are, the more the water will be flowing in a Brownian motion just all around the space. And so using that, we can infer what the connections in the brain are and where they are and how good they are, whether they're high quality or not. And I'm going to skip all those pretty colorful images, but I'm going to show you the rainbow in this cumulative density plot here and down here. And that rainbow is what is showing you is the distribution of highly connected areas versus the less connected areas. And the colors are the different ages, and you see how with age this changes. So we're losing connections. Anyways, enough for the introduction. Now, how we're looking at that. We have 500 individuals, and we take blood and MRI scans. So with the MRI scan, we're going to be able to see the loss of brain volume. That is an indirect way to look at the loss of those connections or the quality of those connections. And we also have the blood of those people. And in the serum, we can analyze different molecules, which are cytokines and chemokines, and they're related to inflammation. There's two types of inflammation. There's acute inflammation, that's viruses and things, we don't care about that. And there's the second type of inflammation, which develops with age, as you age, and it's called inflammaging. And that is what we're interested in. So as you progress in your age, you have more and more inflammation that accumulates, and that's called inflammaging. And with that inflammaging, there is, so we look at the different markers that are available, and some of the markers will not be related at all to the person's age. They remain flat with age. And by the way, this marker specifically is a very good marker of Alzheimer's disease, but it doesn't change with age. On the other side, we have some markers that change their concentration in the blood with age, and those markers can be used to generate a clock. And I'm going to speed a little bit here and not going to tell you how we select the markers. Some of the markers that we looked at are good for generating the clock, and we take the distribution, the profile that the individual has of those markers, and we end up with what we call the cytokine clock. And this cytokine clock ticks with age and goes further and further. And an interesting element is that the cytokine clock actually has a deviation from the average, which is actually illustrative of the person's biological, the advance of the person's biological age, whether they're speeding or their clock is ticking slower than expected. And so if you isolate the people that have accelerated aging, the ones above the line, and the people that have a decelerated aging, you see something very interesting. The overall volume of gray matter, the volume of the gray matter in the brain, is smaller in the people who are aging faster. And so we have this relation between the gray matter that goes down with age. We have the clock. We looked at those different variables, and we find that they all are relevant in order to explain the decay of gray matter with age. And so one way of looking at that is to actually contrast these three data sets, which is the calendar age of the person, the cytokine clock, which is the biological age of the person, and they're 6. And then we contrast that against 7 different functional areas of the brain. And what you find is that the brain areas are very correlated between each other. That's in aging. When you age, everything decays. Also, our measures are more or less correlated. But the interesting part is the interaction here between the two data sets. And so we apply canonical correlation analysis to that. And canonical correlation analysis is a really fun thing where you can look at two data sets and find canonical variates, hidden canonical variates. Let's imagine you're in Antarctica and you have penguins. And you start measuring the length of the beaks and the width of the beaks. And then another scientist measures the length of the flippers and the width of the flippers. And you take the two data sets and you correlate them. You do canonical correlation analysis on those. And what will happen is in your analysis, you'll be able to find actually which penguins belong to which species and what is the sex of the penguin. So those variables that you didn't measure, they were the canonical or hidden variables that are the interaction between the two data sets. And so in our situation, we looked at those things on the left side, and we correlated them to the brain areas on the right side. Interestingly, age correlated with the sensory motor system, which is not a big surprise because with age, people reduce their physical activity, and it's not surprising to find that the older people are, the more they will be losing volume in their motor cortices. Gender correlated with sensory cortices like the visual cortex or the frontal cortex. And the interesting part is, now I'm going to go full circle, the cytokine clock correlated a lot with the default mode network and the limbic system. So why I'm saying that I went a full circle, because in the beginning I started telling you, well, you know, aging is different than Alzheimer's, and we have a problem because when we study aging, we cannot really say that we're studying aging, so we have to go and say that we're studying Alzheimer's. Well, it turns out, when I look at my aging clock, what is being hit the strongest is the areas where Alzheimer is starting. So Alzheimer's is truly an aging-related disease, but aging is still not Alzheimer's. There's more to aging than that. And that's the list of the people who did the work, and we're founded by NIA. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Niko. So now we have the pleasure of Sahar. She is a member here at Circuit Launch, and she does a lot of wonderful work with Alzheimer's. And I'll let her take the lead here. So here's Sahar.
Thank you. Well, the bad news is that I just had a bite of a snack has peanut butter. I spit it out, but I feel very itchy. So, so you might be entertained at the same time, but just bear with me until I finish this. But I don't go with the introduction generally, but since it is the concept of aging, I'll start with, do you want to live longer? And how long is good enough? Like, how long is long enough? And so the pursuit of living life, it depends on the quality of life. I'd rather finish my life over here rather than staying at this age which I don't remember who are my loved ones. So now the concept comes that how we can live longer and better. So the future is not on the hand of drugs and medicines, but in the hands of precision medicines. And how the precision medicines come, as it shows here, there's a DNA in the medicine. So where does that come from? That medicine comes through our biomarkers. Anything physiological, molecular, histologic will help every person to be unique. And that's why the medicine that's tailored based on our genetic profile is the future of drugs and medicines. When the data is coming from, of course, is the Human Genome Project. Then we can run something like topological data analysis, advanced data science, to subgroup people and prescribe them a medicine that not one fits all. There'll be a right drug at the right dose for right person. So next time when you go to bathroom looking for your brush, you're looking for your own Tylenol. So my Tylenol is my Tylenol, not yours. So that's a future of precision medicine. But what is digital medicine? Associated with digital medicine comes a factor called neurological or neurodegenerative diseases that will be in need of precision digital medicines. So let's look at what is digital medicine. I hope you heard of it, but it's our future, and that future is already taking place. It's called DTX. It's software as medicine. Believe it or not, right in Bay Area, there's a first company that prescribed digital medicine for ADHD kids. Akili Interactive was the first company. The founder has worked as one of the MD PhDs. Dr. Adam Ghazaleh was part of that Akili Interactive, if you're aware of it from Memory and Aging Center. They got the first approval for software as medicine for ADHD kids. That startup went to public, and next is come Alzheimer's. So what is that precision digital medicine is that we can provide for patient with Alzheimer's dementia? And why it is challenging? Because it requires to be personalized. So that's a personalized cognitive training. Again, no more one size fit all. I'm against it. So right cognitive training, right care for the right patient. Again, my DTX app is my DTX app. So I think most of us know about this disease. I think this slide kind of shows what are the impacts that this disease has on patients. Not everyone shows everything, but everyone will show all of it at the end. So how serious? We have some statistics as we were talking. I think if you would have talked about Alzheimer's like 20 years ago, it would have said that, oh, it's a late age disease, like you have to be 85 plus. But unfortunately today is categorized as 65. And the most unfortunate part of it is that as early as 45, you can show up the signs of Alzheimer's dementia. And that number is rising. I think you were thinking why that number is rising. Because Alzheimer has APOE4 genes expression, that once it is expressed, you are going to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. However, there are so many patients without underlying genetic expression of APOE4 that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. I mean, I present this for my pitch deck as a market number, but let's look at it how serious it is by 2050. So Alzheimer's disease is forgetting self-identity. I think the most painful part of this disease is that when you reach to a moment that you said, who am I? So loss of short-term memory, long-term memories, lack of recalling names, your loved one that you lived with them forever, your entire life, geographical disorientation, where is this place? Depression and anxiety, and that 3 dots actually is very depressing because that is a death. No cure exists as of today. Lots of drugs have gone through clinical trial, but literally none has succeeded. But can we help? Okay, so we start with like, wait, who am I? Some words like definitely everyone can tag themselves with, I'm a research neuroscientist, I'm a neuroimaging data analyst, bioinformatician. Sounds very good, founder and CEO. But I think all of us, when we are moving hard towards our career, we have a dream. Especially when you open a startup, you want like to be a millionaire. But never been about me. I wanted to be on the cover of the Forbes magazines. And I'm like working hard for a day that I see my face on the cover of Forbes. It's exciting, right? Dream came true. It's sweet for me. But it's 2050, and I'm back to that chart. I'm one of those 152 million people who are suffering from Alzheimer's dementia. I'm sitting in a senior living on a couch, looking cover of the Forbes magazine, and I'm wondering, who is that woman? So I think the whole idea came like losing the self-identity motivates me to work towards this platform. So I made CognoTrain. CognoTrain is a healthcare startup creating an ecosystem. Again, I will talk about, I started with one product, and after interviewing hundreds of caregivers, I noticed that this is not going to work. This is going to be another drug that you're getting FDA approval for. So that's why the whole idea came like, no, I'm not going to settle with one product for these patients. I want to create that ecosystem for them. Not only by promoting a digital therapeutics, DTX, which is a personalized cognitive training, but also through a lot of AI and ML-powered wearable devices who help them with care. And then it actually ended up being more fascinating thing coming on the way. But it started all with an app to train patients who they are, where they live, how they can navigate their stuff around the home, how they can navigate to the places that they regularly visit, give them audio and memory training from their families. Every feature of the app is designed via gamification and interactive activity based on neuroscience. So there's a concept of proof for every feature of the app that proven by neuroscience that if a person does it, it helps the patient. Now I'm replacing a person, a caregiver, a burden with a software. So the next thing was like, this is not only going to impact patients from US and serving English speakers, so accessibility is in patients' native language. And believe it or not, we have, I have a waiting list, and people by word of mouth, they are signing up their loved one from Germany, Italy, Mexico, from East Europe. They're just coming up and signing up that they want to use the platform for their loved ones, mom, dad, or family member in their own native language. So another challenge came for me that, oh, now I have to promote this platform in every possible language in the world. So it helps with the geographical disorientation. And right now, as the app has launched, it's accessible through any device, any platform, launched in 3 languages, English, Spanish, German, and it's based on a utility patent. And currently, we are in a clinical trial that hopefully after the clinical trial, we get FDA approval and will be the second one in the world promoting a software as medicine. But again, as I said, I don't want to settle with the software. Software is a SaaS-based, brings me money, which is good. But it's definitely the ecosystem that needs care. So there's a CognoTrainer shoe. Is a shoe with a tracker that understands the wonder map of patients with Alzheimer's dementia. When you enter to Alzheimer's dementia phase, you go to that default mode network in your brain of navigating through. You might be wondering, what does it look like? How many of you, when you talk on a phone, you go back and forth like 1 billion times, or just turn around, like just circle around? So when you go to the Alzheimer's dementia phase, your brain goes to that phase. You see a 4-way, you always turn right. You see a stop sign, or you see the end road, you might just stop there. So there is a pattern. Do we know the pattern? No, because we don't have enough data. Can we get those data? Yes. We put the Wonder Tracker map shoe on the patient's feet and let them wander. The AI algorithm behind that understand how they navigate And once they're lost, based on the time that they have been lost, and based on the location, that will put the map on the Google map and predict what are the top 3 places they might be. Sweet, right? So the next thing is NLP-based face recognition glasses. I don't want to talk much about it because I'm still writing a patent for it, but the word, I think, explains that. The next big things that I'm working on and I'm very excited about is memory freezing brain cloud interface. So if your loved ones suffer from Alzheimer's dementia, your parents, you are my next user. If 20 years ago we would have said that we're going to freeze eggs and make babies, everyone would have laughed. So I think if I'm saying that, I'm going to freeze your memories, and after 20 years, you'll be my customer coming back, and I implement it through a nanochip in your brain so that you'll have your own memories back to your brain. That's a sweet spot. And then, making this ecosystem will make us the first one in the world with this much amount of data on the global scale. So look at the potential of the data. So where my ecosystem is standing right now, we are here. We launched the app, so we are in the decline stage, promoting it for Alzheimer's dementia patients, provided devices for care, but of course, we're not going to stop there. Prevention, restoration, as I talk about, and the cure is the whole mission behind this ecosystem. So you can find us on the website. There's an address if you want to send your, I don't know, love letter or maybe Christmas card, you can send there. But if you want to talk about hustle, you can find me here at Circuit Lunch. Thank you.
Excellent. So we will be doing more events here, and we would love you to come back, both longevity and the Bioinformatics people. And we're also in the future the Chromatin and what was the other with Monica? Thank you, Shane. Thank you. So that's probably going to happen in the summer. But again, thank you so much for coming. We're kind of in the infant stages here with our whole, diving into the biotech world. But again, appreciate you all coming. And again, if you guys have any questions about the bio space here, or if you were looking for office space or anything else, you can come to me. And otherwise, thank you so much for coming. So yeah, cheers.